Good morning. Welcome to our weekly Q School, our product spotlight. And today we're going to be covering our Q-TRIX and Q-HEX and really the whole Qscape product offering. My name is Guillen Tremaine, and
I am Maura McGinnis.
Well done.
Thank you.
So,
I got it right. We thank you again so much for joining us. And you've joined us a lot, and we've done a bunch of these.
Yes, we have. So we started on, I guess, St. Patrick's Day.
We did.
And it was really a response to education being canceled, and we did a virtual education and realized that this was a pretty good way of communicating with y'all on our product offering. And so we've done QCAP and QVault and some of our static white strips and power supplies and RGB. I can go through the whole list.
And there's still so much more to do.
And there's a lot more to do. We're scheduled out through July. So I don't think that there's going to be an end to the videos, which is great because if you don't catch the live iteration, you can always catch the YouTube.
So that being said, today, what are we going to talk about?
So today we're going to go over the Qscape product offering, as I may have already mentioned, and jumped into the history because I was excited, right? So Qtrans started as a power supply company trying to solve problems, and we still try to solve problems with our products. So what we identified, my dad started the company, he realized that there was an issue with power supplies that he wanted to solve, really for his own jobs and applications. And did not want buzzing transformers on his projects, so he wanted to create something that was a really quiet transformer, something that ran really cool so he could put the transformers in locations that other products couldn't be located in, something that was super safe and lasted a long time. And one of the biggest issues was voltage drop, and so including multi-taps as a standard for all of the products, and so that we can recover our voltage drop when that pops up, and was a really big issue in low voltage lighting, but is still a big issue in LED lighting. So with that,
we're going to remind you. So up on the screen, you can see what we're going to cover today is highlighted. The other things we either have covered or will cover. I think we have covered. So again, you can dig into that YouTube channel for in-depth information or reach out to your rep or your regional. What we're going to do right now is just do some reminders about our website.
So if you go to products and filter down, you will see that we have broken our power supplies up into either LED power supplies or AC power supplies. So a lot of your landscape lighting is still powered with 12 volt AC. So the LED fixture is operating at 12 volt AC. It has an onboard driver that converts the AC to DC and controls the current or the milliamps. So if you go to AC, you'll see that we have a filter on the left-hand side, and we break it down into our dimming and then environment. And if you click on outdoor and landscape, there we go. We filter down to just the landscape offering. And you'll see that we have our QOM, S, and D. So those are our above grade transformers, and it's available in a variety of different wattages. And we can actually fit 2 transformers inside of one enclosure, which will allow you to control 2 zones independently of one another. Then we have our QSET 1, 2, and 3. So QSET 1 allows us to go up to 300 watts, 60 watts to 300 watts. QSET 2 goes up to 600 watts. And then our QSET 3 goes all the way up to 900 watts. When we launched this product back in 2008, we sold a lot of 900 watt transformers. We still sell them today, but they're not as prevalent as they were back in 2008, which is just a sign of lower wattage consumption from LEDs, and usually a lot more fixtures in different areas. Then what we're talking about today really is the Q-HEX and the Q-HEX Mini. So the Q-HEX goes from 60 watts up to 300 watts, and then the Q-HEX Mini in our AC iteration goes from really 10 watts up to 75 watts. And so then if you go to LED power supplies, you'll see that the filtering is actually a little bit more robust because we have electronic and magnetic offerings here, and the dimming protocols are a lot more vast. So If you go back to environment, maybe click on wet, and actually do wet and outdoor and landscape. See if we can click both. You'll see that we have all of the products that are rated for both wet and landscape and burial. So again, we've got our QOM, which is available in black or stainless steel, the QSET ELED or MLED, so electronic or magnetic LED power supplies, and then we have the Q-HEX Mini, which is also rated to go or be power LED DC or 24 or 12 volt DC, sorry. And then if you go to accessories, so that's where the enclosures live in our accessories. So the Q-Vault accommodates the Q-Set. Q-Wire and Q-CLIK we will go into during this presentation, as well as the Mini J. Then we have the Q-TRIX R20, which is just a junction box, and we're going to talk about that. And the Q-TRIX B160, which accommodates the Q-HEX, and the Q-TRIX R50, which accommodates the Mini HEX. And then we also are going to go over the Q2.
One quick thing, too, with any of our products, when you specify anything and when you're looking for information, actually, we'll go back to our AC, AC power supplies. We'll go to AC power supplies, and we'll go to our Q-HEX that we're talking about today. We always recommend that you have some options. You have a spec sheet, an ordering guide, find a rep, contact us, some brief information and some brief technical information. We really always recommend you go to the ordering guide. That's going to be the most complete information for any of our products. So this is a 3-page document, a little more robust than a spec sheet, but it gives you some temperature ratings, some details that you might need that we're going to talk about, and some specifications. And then, of course, you have to go back to accessories to find the spec sheet for the ordering guide, rather, for the enclosure in which it belongs. So that's just a reminder that for all of our products, we really recommend that ordering guide for the most complete information. It's a little bigger than a spec sheet. See, this is an 8-page document, but you're going to find everything you need when you're specifying a project at 11 o'clock at night for an 8 a.m. deadline. So that being said, you mentioned a little AC/DC.
Yeah, not the band, the power.
Yeah.
So we have a slide that shows our very rudimentary diagram of alternating current versus direct current. So AC is going to power your standard fixtures that require 12 volt AC. You'll see it on the cut sheets. It's usually 12 volt AC. And then our DC power would power product that requires a remote power supply. So as a lot of you guys know, we started as a power supply company. We started in 1993, but in 2013, we launched our linear LED product offering. So what's rated in our outdoor offering includes, but not limited to, our Q-Cap. Our static white is also rated to be wet or encapsulated. And really, products that are encapsulated can be flexible or in our rigid offering. So I've got a sample to show you guys of our Lalo, which is encapsulated and is a great product. I mean, the encapsulation fills the entire extrusion. So the LEDs are in here. The LED or the encapsulate really makes it a solid, waterproof product. And so, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I love the Lalo, but you can see actually on the left image the Lato, which the Lalo was based on. So our Lato extrusion can be encapsulated, as can our Fleur. And the reason I like to point those out is because they're a really robust exterior solution for steps and stonework. Yep. Gardens, you'll have no acrylic lenses, no cracking, no intrusion of pests. Really, really extra IP67.
Yeah, it's bulletproof. So we've had great success with this now, and you can get diode free. So.
Right. And again, all of our products are 24 VDC, 24 volts, low voltage.
Right. So this product would require a remote LED power supply whereas a pathway light or an uplight or even a downlight, a lot of those fixtures are designed for 12-volt AC. So I think we've probably covered that.
I think we've beaten it up.
Yep. So,
But in case we haven't,
Right, so
look, there it is again.
so just as a reminder, we have our outdoor product offering. The QOMS and QOMD are just the AC, and then we've got the DC above grade power supplies. So we've got the DC, DC plus cap, ELED, and then we can do DMX, and we can even do Dolly in the QOM drive.
Nice.
I don't know how many we've sold for our outdoor applications,
I
but
think outdoor European applications are flush with
pretty big.
QOM Dolly power supplies. But what do we do if we can't use a surface-mounted power supply? That is not, by the way, one of our power supplies on
That
the
is
screen.
not one of our power supplies.
Not at all.
And that is an image that we may have used before, but it just shows how poor the installations can be for above-grade transformers. And of course, you've got to hide an above-grade transformer. So you have aesthetic issues where you can mount the transformer. You're always going to have potential water intrusion issues, and of course, safety issues and potential, I don't know.
That one you could for sure, especially because you have a separate power supply. That one's pretty sweet for an example of what not to do.
Yeah, but we have better images later.
Better images of
Bad installations.
we do. Yeah, we do. Wait for that one.
So the beauty of burying a transformer is that you're able to bring your power out to different areas and then distribute out from there. And obviously burying something is a lot easier to hide than mounting something to a stake or to a building. You also will have less voltage drop, so it's really a distribution hub and less voltage drop. So in our offering, we've got the Q-Vault and the Q-Set, which is really the higher end product. It has all the bells and whistles that we could think of, and it has a lot of capacity capability. So you can fit up to 900 watts in the Q-Vault. We recognized that there were going to be a lot of applications that didn't need that much power. So we have the Q-HEX, which goes inside of the Q-TRIX B160, and then we have the mini-HEX.
And again, AC and DC options for all sorts of solutions for landscape lighting. So we're going to start with our AC, our Q-HEX.
Right. So the Q-HEX, again, has a lot of the same features that we offer in our standard products or in any of our magnetic products. So in addition to the fact that it's a toroidal transformer, which is constructed to last, we have our boost taps built in. And I don't know if you can
Sure.
put the camera on the actual hex here, but we've got our primary side here, which has 4 wires. So we have our ground, neutral, tap 1 is if you're switching it on or off. Tap 2 is if you're dimming it. So we actually have a boost tap in here to recover your voltage drop if you're dimming it. We have our secondary circuit protection. So this is a push-pull breaker. And then on our secondary side, we've got our low voltage common. We've got an under voltage tap, 12, 13, 14, and 15 volts. So we're able to compensate for your voltage drop with the boost tap.
If you opened that up, what would be inside?
Well, Maura, why don't you show us?
I'm going to show you. Right next to it, you'll see a rather large toroid. There's a lot of wires coming off of this. On our website, we didn't mention in that banner, there's a gallery section. There's a super cool video of these toroids being made. So we make power supplies from the heart out, from the core out. So this is the core of any of our magnetic power, any of our toroidal power supplies, right? Which is magnetic.
Plus the core and the whole winding.
Right, and the winding. It's the the core is wound with these with the copper. And when it comes to the primary and the secondary, you have your primary wires, right? Your secondary wires. These wires match up. Not with that. To these wires, it's a little spaghetti here, and the winding of the toroid is how we accommodate for voltage drop. And this is across, as Guillen said, all of our products. But you can see sort of this is the heart, and this is in here, and then fully epoxied and potted in a very goopy blue epoxy, and matches in, and it's a very substantial power. And it's the heart of, so you can see sort of just for funsies, That's a AC, and this is for a Q-set, right? So the Q-set is a whole different form factor. It's a cassette or a cartridge.
Yeah.
Either one, right?
So we're going to talk about the enclosure after.
Oh,
Maura
after we
talks
talk about the next one. Me? Okay.
Yeah, I think you're up.
So our team developed our AC/DC, again, not the band.
Not the band.
Not the band. Q-HEX Mini. So same ideas, more compact. We still have the push button secondary protection, or sorry, primary protection?
Secondary.
Secondary protection. Here's our primary, our ground, our neutral, our tap 1 and tap 2. Now on here, we've only got, this is a 12 volt, and this is a 24 with the 2 taps, with the 2 options. Sorry, that's our secondary. The taps have to do with the primary. So inside here, again, are potted toroids. So here in my hand, you can see the significant difference between the toroids we put in the Q-HEX Mini and the toroids. I can't even put that in my hand. So this, again, size-wise, you can tell the capacity. This is a 20-watt toroid, 20-watt capacity, and a 10-watt toroid. And that's still the heart of our power supplies.
So what's our minimum load requirement?
You know, we don't have a minimum load requirement.
Well done.
We just, since you asked, tested a 1.5 watts because we were tested by some clients. I'm just going to digress a minute. We are a small company, and we have a lot of opportunity to answer our clients and specifiers sort of immediately and do stuff sometimes in a timely fashion.
Yeah, and sometimes custom.
And sometimes custom. So we did just test another manufacturer's 1.5 watt LED stake light path mount, and it works on a 10-watt transformer with no ghost load, no additional load required. So it's
And I think
pretty
that's a
impressive.
277 input. Right?
And it was 270. As a matter of fact, I think that is the test
There we go.
module right there. So so can I just put these in the ground just like this?
So you cannot. Although they're fully encapsulated, you do need to put them in a housing, and we have different housings for different Q-hexes. So our Q-TRIX B160 is the larger iteration of our Q-TRIX housings, and this is to accommodate the Q-HEX. This was really the first housing that we designed in the triangular configuration. It's called Q-TRIX, by the way, because it's like a tripod. It's triangular, and it's a really stable way of mounting a fixture. So we designed it so that you can actually mount a fixture to the top of this, as the picture shows on the PowerPoint presentation. And the housing accommodates the Q-HEX, so you just drop that in. Obviously, you need to wire it up. So we have starter holes here in the corners, and that allows you to figure out where to drill the holes to come in with your primary and then out with your secondary wiring. We added some features in here that are similar to the Q-Vault. So we have mechanical compression stops. So these marry up to the door and prevent you from over compressing the gasket. And we do have little rubber gaskets that hold the nut onto the housing so that if you do strip out a nut or a bolt, you can replace the nut or bolt right there and not have to throw away the enclosure, which is nice. And then we have these stake mounts stakes that mount, that thread into the housing. So this is designed to be buried, and it can be buried in dirt, gravel, sand, clay, but not in concrete. And you can bury this all the way up to the top. A lot of people don't. There is a bit of a return here. So, a lot of people will leave the top of the housing above grade, but it is designed, or it is listed to be completely buried. Oh, and the cool little top is really mostly aesthetics, but it also helps with the rigidity to help the heavy stake mount.
Absolutely. And one little feature which is consistent across our TRIX line, we're going to talk about the R50, which is the enclosure for the Q-HEX. But something we haven't mentioned is one of our cool features on our Q-Vault is the bag, right? The Q bag that has all the neat stuff inside, including a Sharpie for labeling. And this product actually has a writable surface as well. All of them do. It's a nice smooth surface where you can mark your circuits, your whatever. And so if it's not buried, it's sort of easily visible. So it's just a little detail that I did not realize until I was making this presentation.
Yeah.
That this is a sort of a rough surface, and then you have a smooth surface for writing.
Which is the same with the Volt.
And right, exactly, same with the Vault. So we've carried over a lot of the ingenuity of the Vault into a smaller product. So this product, the R50, is the enclosure for the Q-HEX, right? So the Q-HEX,
side by side.
side by side. There we go. It could be like a psychological test.
Puzzle.
It's a puzzle. So this product, so some improvements were made, right? This came 4 years later after the B160. So this product series has a lot of the same features, right? So there's that that stop, which is actually a little different.
It's a little different.
It's a little different, but the same principle applies. The same principle applies to the rubber gaskets holding the nut in place. It's a little hard to see. There we go. But what is really interesting about this is your drill holes, you have more of them because the interior capacity is a little different. And you also have knockouts. So we're going to talk about the Q-CLIKs, and I believe we've talked about them in our Q-Vault class. But you have 7 available knockouts. You're not going to use these bottom 4 if your hex mini is be inside, but if you're using this as a junction box or a splice box, you have all these opportunities to feed and send out wire. There's our drill guides, similar to the other product. And again, you have the top with the mechanical compression stop. Wow. And then you have the option to knock out this top and have a stake mount. So again, all the same, just a few more details. And again, the 3 stake mounts, right? So you put your stakes in, which are around here somewhere, for stabilizing and mounting into the ground, right? So that is the Q-TRIX R50. And then what if you have a Q-Vault somewhere and you just need to mount some stuff and you're out of rebar?
There it is. There's my favorite picture.
You're out of rebar.
Yeah.
So instead of rebar,
This
it can happen. You can totally run out of rebar.
You want to talk about that picture for a second?
So that picture came to me from my friend, Mark Andrew, who's a lighting designer in Los Angeles. And I had just finished this presentation last night, and I was scrolling through Facebook, and he has a fantastic habit of posting stuff like this, which we all really appreciate. I think he hashtagged this mounting detail, which, you know, sure.
I've never seen anything quite that good.
It's nice. He did comment, though, they did use a J-box cover. I don't know if you can see next to the rebar, it's got a clamp, and it's actually got a little, like...
Well, you got to be safe.
You got to be safe. So
alternative to that.
An alternative to that, which is nice.
No,
but
you're going to talk about that one.
Oh, am I?
Yeah.
So we have all the same construct, right? The same ideas, the same marking, the same thing, the R20 enclosure. So this is very simple. It's an empty box, right? With guidelines on the side. So there's your drill guide. And you can, again, send in and out wires and have a fixture mount.
Yeah, so if you think about it this way, you could have your power out of here and your first fixture mounted to it. We can have a 75-watt transformer, and if you've got 1.5-watt pathway lights, you could have quite a few fixtures off of, I can't do that math on live TV. So we can have the additional fixtures on the Q-TRIX, which is just, or the Q-TRIX R20, which is just the junction box and mounting feature.
Right. Yeah. So if you had those...
or rebar.
Or rebar, your choice. So this is something, again, about Qscape, why we keep bringing it all back, is it all works together. These all work with the Q-Vault. These all work with the clicks and the wire and the all the different things. So it's a Qscape, right? It's a whole series of products. So the Q-CLIKs, why don't you...
Yeah, so the Q-CLIKs are offered in machine thread or NPT. So the NPT would thread into the knockout. The machine thread gives us a little bit more capability. So we can we can go to a larger compression fitting. So we're going to just talk about the 0.75. So we color code all of these, and you can see that we've got white, and we've got red, and we've got yellow and blue. So the blue and the red is a 1/2 inch, and the blue is 3/4 of an inch. And this is available in the machine thread or the NPT. So machine thread would be great for the Q-TRIX B160, which does not have knockouts. So you drill into the side here, you use the machine thread. For the NPT fitting, you can actually just thread right into the bottom here.
Do you still need epoxy or silicone?
You do not.
Oh, really?
No.
I did not know that.
Yes. So the compression fitting has inserts that are rated for both our landscape wire, our Q wire, or our Q wire with the ground. So we can actually have your primary voltage come in, and then you can go out with your secondary wires. And then we have different configurations, so we can actually put multiple wires out of one compression fitting. And you can see we go a little crazy here, and we can fit, I think, 8 14-gauge wires out of our
1.25? No, 2.
1.25. So our Q wire is a product that is rated for burial, so it's rated to be buried in the ground, but it's also rated to be used in single dwelling residential applications. So it's a great wire that can be used for both your landscape lighting needs and in residential applications. So the wire itself is stranded, and it's copper. The copper wire is tin coated, so it's like marine grade wire. It will not oxidize over time. The wire is also shaped to allow you to make a nice tight seal to it. So if you look at the slide here, you can see that we've got Q wire and we've got standard wire. So standard wire is kind of like speaker wire. It's really easy to pull the two conductors apart, which is fine in an above grade enclosure. But in a burial enclosure, it's impossible to seal that wire. So you see the two conductors, you can't seal the valley between the two conductors, and water is going to wick into a burial enclosure. So our Q wire allows us to seal that valley, and then of course we've got the tin coated copper, so it's going to last a long time. It's not going to oxidize. Of course, we don't want it to come in contact with the air, so we've got some great connections as well that prevent that. And of course, if it's in the burial box, it's not going to, you're not going to have that issue. Additionally, we've color coded the interior jacket. So we've got the interior jacket color coded blue and yellow, so you can make your connections really easily. This wire is rated from 14 gauge down to 10 gauge. And then of course, we've got our primary wire. And then we've color coded the outside of the jacket. So one side is gray, the other side is brown, so that if you're running the wire up a tree, you can conceal the wire to the color of the tree.
Absolutely. And I know we're running long and we just have a couple more things to talk about, but I do want to say we're really getting into the weeds. Q-scape weeds.
Nice.
It's good, right?
Yep.
And maybe some specifiers are like overwhelmed, or they would never get into this much detail in the specification. And that's fine. But you saw that fixture mount, which we like to make a lot of fun of, that rebar, but that happens sometimes when you don't specify, and you don't even have to specify all these details. You can reach out to your regional, you can reach out to your rep, and we're gonna help you create the package. But just at least say enclosures and wire by Q-Tran. Put that in the spec and you'll be fine. The wire comes with a stripper. We didn't talk about the stripper.
We do have a Q stripper, and so that allows you to get the outer jacket off and get to the interior jackets.
And then we talked a lot last week with my colleague Tug Payne about our Q Mini J, which is a super cool, very small J box. When you fill it with silicone, it's completely IP68 and submersible. Comes with a lot of details, and please check our YouTube channel for the information about that.
And then, even cooler underground splice is the Q2. So this is rated for to have anywhere from 14 gauge down to 8 gauge. We have 2 terminal blocks for each set screw, so we're making a nice tight connection. And we have a heat shrink tubing, or this little housing comes off and then goes back on. The heat shrink tubing, and the end result looks like this. It's really just a bulletproof.
Did you build that?
I did.
Nice job.
Yeah. So if I can build it,
Exactly.
anybody can build it.
He took his hair dryer, and then
We do have some heat guns on the floor.
we have heat guns on the floor. That is our Q-scape comedy show for the
Yes.
morning. We'll be doing it again.
Maybe better in the afternoon.
Maybe
so
better
come
in the
back.
afternoon, or maybe not.
Do you have any questions?
We had some questions. I think Rick asked about accessories. So I'm assuming that everyone's seeing our chat function. So Doug answered. I do have an iPad here. The connections and accessories, are they included with the enclosure? And they are not. They need to be ordered separately. So I'm going to open up the questions. Glenn asked, can you also speak about constant voltage versus constant current? That's a fantastic question.
It is. Most of what we do, or pretty much all of what we show on the website, is constant voltage. We can do constant current, but there's such a big, vast array of different iterations that we can't get everything listed. So we've done constant current for projects. We don't list it on the website.
Right. And it's not available as a modification to these power supplies.
We've done it in the past.
I'm going to speak on behalf of engineering and give you a no on that one. But where we have done it is we have a tray accessory in the Q Vault where we can mount other drivers in our Q Vault. And again, it's a listing issue. We are not listed. Have we done it in that? Really?
Yeah.
How? What fits in there?
It was a small, I forgot the wattage, but
Oh, neat.
I think it was a Doug Payne job.
It was a Doug. Was it a Doug Payne job? Okay. Why do you use, Glenn, again, why do you use magnetic toroids versus electronic in small housings?
Well, Glenn, I don't think that we could do an electronic
Right.
power supply inside the Q-TRIX, except for the one that I was just
Right,
alluding
except what
to.
you just alluded to. Right. Because if you want to look behind you in that
So
Q, and
in
that's
the-
a big.
In the Q set, we can do either magnetic, so M LED or E LED. The M LED is just rectified. So there is, if you put it under a scope, you're going to see ripple. And if you want to eliminate that ripple, we'll use the electronic LED power supply.
Right.
The electronic LED power supply is going to usually push you to 0 to 10. However, we do have our PH80s listed to be used in our above grade QOM housing. So we could do that, and that's phase control.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I don't see any more questions, but we will mute ourselves, although it's probably a better idea. We'll hang out for a few minutes. Please put any questions in the chat or reach out to your regional rep. Again, I say it every week. We know you're spending a ton of time in front of your screens, so we really thank you for spending this time with us. And we'll see you again soon. Thank you.